Oh man, what was I thinking? Why did I agree with my friend to come here? Why Yemen, in the Middle East, south of Saudi Arabia? And me, an all-American girl. What about the USS Cole? Or terrorists? My God, they just killed 6 Spanish tourists. And then the kidnappings. Although, that actually sounds kind of interesting. Supposedly, they treat you real well. They just want a road, a satellite dish, a school, or something like that from the government. Well, I'm committed now. No turning back. Just make a prayer toward Mecca and hope for the best.
Your seatbelt is fastened by joining the two ends like this. If emergency oxygen is required in flight,
فإن كمامات كهذه
masks like these
سوف تتدلى من اللوحة أعلى الرأس.
will drop down.
This part of the Arabian Peninsula just became the United Republic of Yemen in 1990 when the North and South were, quote, united. The current president is Ali Abdullah Saleh, for short I'm sure, since the typical name here, in order to acknowledge the lineage, goes something like this. Ali bin Salah bin Muhammad bin Umar bin Awar bin Abdallah al-Qawati al-Hattat al-Katan. I didn't know much about Yemen when I agreed to come here. What I'd mostly heard about was the architecture. Although the capital, Sana'a, is a sprawling, reasonably modern city, it has a part that is nearly 1,000 years old and was preserved as a UNESCO Heritage Site in 1984. The buildings, or tower houses, are made of stone on the ground floor and mud bricks on the upper floors. The mud keeps the interiors cool during the day and warm at night. These buildings are usually 6 to 8 stories, with the ground floor being a shop or stall, and then spiraling up as the women's quarters, the kitchen and bathroom, bedrooms for the extended family, and finally, the top floor used for entertaining. The facades are decorated and protected with a whitewash of lime that is made in enormous kilns far out in the countryside. The other noticeable part of these buildings are the half-moon-shaped alabaster and stained-glass windows called takrim.
Excellent.
The old city is a labyrinth of narrow streets filled with everything imaginable, including community gardens scattered throughout. A man named Hussein, whom I had prophetically befriended in Thailand the year before, showed us around as only a local can do.
هذه قاعد تقطع في الناس. Thank you. They always think I'm Moroccan. I don't know why. كذا ثواني قال له تسمح.
That's it, there.
ثاني ممكن الفرق. هاي
And what is it? Sorry, that's it. Look at the little goats.
Hussein treated us to our first of the many saltas we would have in Yemen, but this one, I have to say, was the best. Saltas are lamb or beef, cornmeal, lentils, and sauce, cooked over a very hot flame. All meals are eaten by hand using one of the 40 different types of bread here. Most restaurants are open to the air and usually only serve men and foreigners. Foreigners are not held to the same standards as Muslims. In every restaurant, there are sinks to wash one's hands before and after the meal, using powdered laundry detergent. Hussein introduced us to the main cultural phenomenon here in Yemen, ghat. Starting at about 2 in the afternoon, the men begin to purchase their bags or branches of this plant.
This is a ghat shop. Hello. This is good. Hey, hello. Good ghat.
In Islam, no alcohol or drugs are allowed, but here, ghat is not considered a drug, even though there is a psychotropic effect.
Looks very comfortable.
First time you get a feeling. It needs about 3-4 hours after you get cut. Then you get a pushing feeling, you are active, or perhaps a coming down feeling that you feel very tired. It's up to you.
Ghat is grown everywhere on terraced land and is sucking this desert country dry of its limited water resource. It also costs a lot, about 3/4 of a man's daily wage, which might be $10 or $15. And obviously, very little gets done when one is chewing ghat. Basically, you sit for 3 or more hours, just chewing and chewing. There are even special ghat rooms for this activity. I found that the shisha and a Pepsi helped mask the horrible taste. Rumor has it that women are beginning to pick up on this habit, but we never saw that. What you do see are enormous wads in cheeks that are a status symbol indicating wealth and stamina.
You and I pretend like...
Wandering the streets of Yemen, one can't miss the throngs of women covered in black. The abaya is a controversial item in the Islamic religion. Some say it is not mentioned in the Quran, but we spoke with women here who said they prefer to be covered so they are not harassed by men and so they can comfortably observe the world around them anonymously. It was interesting to see shops selling brightly colored sequined gowns. Women are elaborately dressed, bejeweled, make-upped, and perfumed under their black cloaks and show it off at all female parties, especially weddings. As with everything in Muslim countries, wedding celebrations separate the men and women. We lucked out and were invited to a bachelor party in a huge tent. Because we were foreign, we did not have to abide by the strict rules in Islam, which gave us this rare opportunity to join in.
وأن يجعل هذا تجمعا مرحوم وأن يجعل تفرقنا من بعد تفرقا معصوم وأن يجعل القرآن العظيم ربيع قلوبنا وأن
في صنعاء القديمة.
عشان كده he's a tour guide too. That's why he knows 3 languages. عشان كده لغتك التي.
What's your other language besides English? Italian. Oh, you look a little Italian and French
and English.
Wow. That's amazing.
He's a tour guide. He took courses. وكملت الثانوية؟
لا هذا سنة إن شاء الله.
This year you will finish high school.
High school?
Yeah.
How old are you?
18.
Kamrok. I'm trying to learn Arabic.
No problem. Step by step, and after that you can speak Arabic very well.
That's what I want.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful language. So, how old are you?
Yes.
You look very young, but if you are a tour guide and speak 4 languages, I'm going to say 22.
No.
I give him 24.
Less?
Yeah.
He's only 18.
18.
Exactly.
وكم عمرك بدأت
Oh
تشتغل؟
my gosh. 18, and he speaks, he said
languages. 10
4.
سنة أو 12 سنة.
Arabic, French, English, and Italian.
He's been working 12 years. This
Wow.
guy's
يعني كنت أبصر الأجانب وأفرح أصير أدي كلمة معاهم كيف أنت كيف حالك تشتي بندق فقط.
He used to see foreigners and he'd say, I get excited, I go to them, hi, how are you? You're in a hotel.
Just discussions.
Yes,
be
oh
happy.
good.
The songs here in Yemen, we were told, are about the same things they are anywhere: love and life. The main instrument is the guitar-like oud. One of the most common and popular dances is the knife dance, done with the decorative dagger called the jambiya. The dance was done to strengthen tribal ties. The jambiya casing used to be made from rhinoceros horn, until this practice nearly brought the animal to extinction. So now the cover is made from tooled leather. The men wear long white shirts, dress coat jackets, which is a remnant of prior British occupation, scarves around their shoulders or tied turban style on their heads, and then the jambiya, held with a brightly woven belt. After this amazing experience, we returned to our hotel in the local van transport, where even in cramped quarters, women are not to be touched by men.
This side, your side is for women. Even she's his relative, we take him so that no man will sit next to you.
Aha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
One thing I like about Yemen, when prayer calls in Saudi Arabia, they close everything. Shops. Here they continue life as usual. You pray, you pray.
Men and women also have separate times they can go to the hammams, or public baths. Here was where I had my most intimate contact with the women in this country, being scrubbed and shampooed, naked and laughing. Of course I couldn't film this, so you will just have to use your imagination. If women eat out, they are sequestered behind curtains with their husbands and children, since to eat, the veil must be lifted.
And he says no.
And finally, the genders pray separately. Usually, the women at home and the men at the mosques. There are 5 daily calls to prayer in Islam, starting at sunrise. Even hotel rooms have arrows pointing toward Mecca and often provide a prayer rug. We were allowed into only 2 mosques, as non-Muslims are usually strictly forbidden. Mosques are large open rooms with no iconography, simply beautiful carvings and designs. Even the cemeteries have no marked gravestones, so all are missed and honored equally. The practitioners engage in group ritualistic postures. Islam is one of the more recent religions, having been started by the Prophet Muhammad around 600 AD in the Gregorian calendar. Muslims respect the other, quote, people of the book, such as Christians or Jews, whose holy books are said to be the direct word of God. Starting as children, Muslims memorize their book, the Quran. During our tour, we witnessed evidence of the bygone days when Christians and Jews inhabited this land. The Jews especially were influential here in architecture and jewelry making. We were told that even today there are peaceful enclaves of Jews who did not leave in the mass exodus to Israel in the 1950s. Traveling in Yemen is difficult. Foreigners must travel with an organized tour comprised of an official guide who knows the current hotspots and has all the necessary documentation needed to pass through the hundreds of military checkpoints. I was the anonymous American, camouflaged by 15 German tourists. I was never mentioned, and it was easy for me to quietly blend in. Mostly Europeans and Japanese travel here, although I never had a bad reception when I did admit I was from the U.S. Besides the guide, one also needs 4-wheel drive vehicles and experienced drivers to navigate the often very rough terrain. Many areas require military escorts to protect tourists from being kidnapped, or worse. And although a little intimidating, these escorts were always so friendly and loved to have their pictures taken. In fact, everywhere the people were friendly, helpful, curious. Throngs of children or adults would meet us and yell, "Sura, Sura," to have their pictures taken, or "Kalem, Kalem," to get the much-desired pen. We passed through so many villages, honestly, it was hard to keep track of them all.
Assalamu alaikum.
One of the highlights and greatest adventures of the trip happened right at the start when we headed north to the mountain stronghold of Shahara. Due to political conflict and instability, the government requires a military escort, and our boys ranged from age 14 to 22. Shahara is nearly 3,000 feet high and is one of the most famous mountain fortresses. This village withstood years of onslaught by foreign occupiers and even the Yemen military during the Civil War in the 1960s. It wasn't until the advent of airplanes that Shahara finally fell. The people here are still more closed than those in the rest of Yemen and require that tourists use their local transport, which are Toyota trucks. They say that Toyota designed a truck just for these roads, which were admittedly some of the most treacherous I have ever been on. We had gotten a late start and didn't arrive to the top until after dark. We stayed in a home converted to a hostel. The accommodations were basic, and the men and women were separated and slept on the floor. We had been rushed when packing for this overnight stay, so I ended up with a rather odd and useless assortment of, quote, essentials. I was thinking I would fail in a Survivor Woman episode.
Oh, Toyota, we love you, Toyota. Yeah, no, I don't want to look over there. Oh, God. Stroud. I'm here on the Survivor Woman at the top of where are we? Shirarahala. And we thank Allah that we made it here. Now, what did I pack for survival? Okay. Oh yes, a football. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, a good sheet. Yeah. Oh, my notebook. Yeah, I'd be writing a lot. Okay, what else? Oh yeah. Oh, gum. Yeah, I gotta have gum. Let's see, what else do we have in? Oh, yeah. This might be handy, but they have electricity.
The next day, we hiked to the main attraction in Shahara, the bridge, which is something out of an Indiana Jones movie. Only one tier remains of this originally 3-tiered bridge, which is pretty darn good considering it is over 1,000 years old. Walking across this bridge surely brings on the vertigo.
In case I send you a video.
As with most villages, there are cisterns that collect rainwater, and it is a beautiful sight to see the black-cloaked women scooping up water in brightly colored buckets. Even way up here, there are shops with clothes, candy, and sodas.
Dew. Mountain Dew. I get.
And of course, there is Got.
Yep, she's selling Got.
Hiking down the mountain, we passed local schoolgirls, where east meets west, and who looks stranger to whom? Heading down the mountain was just as scary as coming up.
Ay.
On the road, we passed many of these drawings, which we found out were the symbols for different political parties, used because of the high illiteracy rate. Being on the road with 16 people meant many bathroom stops, or Pinkelpausas in German. These were always interesting and even challenging.
Oh my, where? Anywhere?
I don't know. Only birds.
This is one of the worst toilets I've ever seen. Okay, here we go. Enjoy! Where are you going?
Hello?
You're going to the toilet? Wait a minute, let me look at it. Let me film it.
You film it?
I'm filming, not you peeing, but
Okay,
just...
thank you.
Okay. Carmen goes for a Pinkelpause. There she goes. Yeah. It's a very large toilet. The hammam. Yalla, yalla, Carmen. Schnell, schnell. There she is. How was it, Carmen? Yeah? Nice? Yeah. What is it, just a tube?
One of Carmen's and my favorite stops was in Kokoban, on the outskirts of Sana'a. Here we were shockingly approached by a woman who conversed with us, introduced us to her family, and not only showed her face, but also showed us her belly cesarean scars, although she would not let us film or photograph her. With the help of my Arabic dictionary and gestures, we had a wonderful conversation and even learned how to properly tie our headscarves.
Oh, Leslie, this is difficult.
It's hard to breathe, huh?
Yeah, and it's more difficult than in Morocco.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You look very different.
Assalamu alaikum.
In the evening, I got to show the kids how to play some American-style Nerf football. Playing and interacting with kids is one of my favorite things to do when I travel. I got another opportunity in Jibla. We had come here to see a mosque that was built by one of the only female rulers, Queen Awan. But really, I enjoyed hanging with the kids more.
That's your name? Okay. That's a happy name. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Now, no school today?
Yeah, school Saturday and Sunday and Monday. This is very easy.
What is today? Tuesday?
Tuesday.
And no school today?
Yeah. But this is easy, not...
Why aren't you in school?
This is an afternoon, not morning.
You're finished with school today?
Yeah.
Okay. What did you study? What did you learn? Can you ask them what did they learn today? Ask. What did you learn today?
This is study for 5 class.
But what? Did they study the Quran?
Yeah.
Only the Quran. Or mathematics?
Mathematics and chemistry.
Chemistry.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
رياضيات.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, two. Oh, this one is good. Okay.
Kids have Fridays off of school instead of Sunday like us. On this day, you will find them in the streets playing soccer or foosball.
Oh, we gotta go. What? Okay. Okay, it's Yemen versus Germany. Old man versus young kids. Who will win? Who will...
After visiting the western and northern part of the country, we headed inland to the old capital, Marib. Again, this was considered a red zone, and therefore we needed not only a military escort to the city, but also one to all the sites. This group of men were a bit older and friendlier. They loved taking pictures with us holding their AK-47s.
This is a video.
This is crazy.
Yeah, I know. Yep, pretty crazy.
Marib was the capital when Yemen was run by kings. It borders the Aruba al-Khali Desert and is one of the most famous archaeological sites in this country. The old city of Marib is uninhabited now. Only the skeletons of the muddy city remain. In the setting sun, with the evening call to prayer, one can feel the deep soul and history of this land. The other highlights of Marib are the Sun and Moon temples. The Temple of the Sun is best known for its well-preserved Sabaean scripts, named after the Saba kingdom, which existed around 1000 BC. The Temple of the Moon is also known as the Temple of Bilqis, which is the Islamic name for the Queen of Sheba, also called the Queen of Saba, who infamously visited King Solomon. This point is argued by some archaeologists who believe the temple was built around 2000 BC, before the queen reputedly existed. Whatever the truth may be, standing on this soil takes one back to the very roots of civilization. After stepping back in time, we were treated to a wild ride through the desert.
Okay. Uh-oh. It's a little too fast. No. No. Please no. Oh shit. Please no. Okay. That's enough. Stop. Oh shit. It's a Nissan, not a Toyota.
This part required a local Bedouin escort, since they knew the desert, especially where old mines might be, left over from the Civil War, when the desert was the dividing line between North and South. We were treated to a lunch and camel visit with one of the local tribes. The area after the desert is known as Wadi Hadramaut. It is one of the wealthier provinces due to its fertility from the wadi, which means river or riverbed. The agriculture and livestock here have contributed to its relative affluence, but so have the people. Historically, people from this area were involved in trade. Many ended up in Asia, succeeded in business, and then returned home. One can witness the different cultural expressions in a variety of ways. For example, the pointy witch's farmer's hat. Another noticeable difference is that the men wear sarongs rather than the long white shirt. Also, the architecture here is more modern, with a bright whitewash and colorful details. But most evident was the size of the people. They were obviously well fed. While here, we visited the famous Manhattan of the Desert, known by its tall skyscrapers of mud. This is Shibam, and it is also a UNESCO heritage project. The 5 to 8-storied buildings are made from mud bricks, then covered with white plaster. The doors and screens are each unique and hand-carved. Shibam has been here since around the 3rd century AD, and its fame attracts tourists from all over the world. A perfect opportunity to share the teachings of Islam. To view this ancient, unusual city at sunset is a wonderful way to ponder life's lessons. From Wadi Hadramaut, we headed south with all the obligatory photo stops, village drive-bys, and of course, food.
Bye! Oh, hey. We're part of Pinka Pausa. It's okay. Dinner. Sorry, little chicken. This is dinner. Hi, little chicken. Sorry. For your meal. Yeah. Baked cheese again every day.
We finally arrived to our first port city on the Indian Ocean, Mukalla. From far away it looked quite lovely, but then we got up close and personal.
Ah, you see us now.
I tried to make up for the dismal surroundings by ordering a pizza, but instead was given something without tomato sauce, gooey, and with some strange sweet flavor. I gave it away and was seriously in need of a break. The landscape was eerie, dunes with dark black volcanic rock. We were halfway through this trip and I was fading in my energy and enthusiasm. And then it happened. We had been refused entrance to a city called Atak because of the danger, and what a blessing that turned out to be. We got to go to Bir Ali. Peaceful, rustic, clean. We loved it here. Of course, only tourists seem to enjoy this place, since we don't mind being considered basically naked in a bathing suit and crazy for swimming in the ocean. And finally, for absorbing the sun to its last drop. The southern coast of Yemen, on the Indian Ocean, had been colonized by the British and was much more modern than the rest of the country, especially the port town of Aden. Here, as horribly American as this might sound, I found a Pizza Hut, the only franchise I had seen, by the way. I inhaled my taste of home and rejoiced. Of course, we also enjoyed the local scenery and culture of coastal life. As we continued heading back inland and north, we stayed a few nights in Taiz, another bustling modern city. On our first evening, we treated ourselves to an overview of the city.
Oh, is this it? This is it.
Wollt ihr was trinken? Ja.
Wow, it's loud.
Fürs Video, Biertrinke fürs Video. Männer, Biertrinke fürs Video.
Hello.
Hello. Oh, there. Tomatoes. Good tomatoes. Are you gonna juggle? Jamila.
Hello.
Hello. Ah, that's what I thought. Have you tasted it?
Saddam Hussein used to be admired here because he allowed the Yemeni people to visit, work, and study in Iraq. He fell out of favor after the Kuwait and Iraq wars, and like Iraq, this town Al-Qaeda had nothing to do with its namesake. While in Taiz, we visited the surrounding area. We went up the local mountain called Jebel Saber. Again, we were impressed by how these people, on such steep slopes, can build and work the land. Here, we got to see women in bright colors and many with their faces uncovered. Evidently, they have maintained this custom because they are able to sell more goods to the military this way. They also share the well-known art of henna with the tourists.
Das ist doch. Überlege Tee. Eben waschen in der nächsten Zeit. Wer da?
Ja. Hallo, Cecilia.
How is it, girl?
Ja.
Leaving Taiz, I noticed that extraordinary scenes, many just outside our hotel, were becoming entirely too common.
Is the Yemen car wash.
We continued west toward the coast that is closest to Ethiopia, separated only by a thin arm of the Red Sea. Immediately, you can see the African influence.
Okay. I got that one. How are you? Yeah?
As we neared the coast, we stumbled upon what appeared to be a Hells Angels convention Yemeni style.
And now you finally have to say no to surahs.
And then to one of the most disgusting sections of oceanfront property I've ever seen. There was death all around, and we decided definitely to not get in the water. These are all crabs. Our trip was nearing its end. God, we had seen so much, especially markets, or souks as they are called here. These are in every village, every city, every day. It is their form of the mall. Here, the people gather and shop and visit. There are sections for grains and raisins and baskets, charcoal, food, pots and pans, clothes, household items, beds, hookahs, herder staffs and watches, even multicolored chicks, making you wonder if it was Easter.
ألمانيا
Meat.
Meat?
Yeah, meat.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
What kind of meat? Cow?
Meat and open.
Oven. That's true.
But the most impressive was the meat sections. Life and death are so close, brutal, and real. But the granddaddy of all the souks was Bait al-Faqih. Wow. Huge, packed, and an onslaught of the senses. On the outskirts lie the livestock, cattle, goats, and even camels being bought and sold. Then entering the souk, things get more crowded, dense, loud, hot, and everything is for sale. One place even had a healing clinic where suction cups or prayers are placed on people to cure what ails them. Camels are used in many ways here, to carry things, make oil, or even to eat. The new, the old, the painful joy, the severe laugh of passion, all come together in the wild west of Yemen.
وين سوق اللحمة؟ عارف دكتور دكتور
Interesting. Wow. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Wow. شكرا.
So now what? What else could there be? One beautiful flower, a finger pointing to Allah. Where could we possibly go from here? What? A baboon? No way. Have you been smoking too much shisha? Chewing too much gat? Are we having a close encounter of the wacky kind? Oh, yes, we are. a forest out in the middle of nowhere with baboons in Yemen. Dude, have some more.
Nein!
Guck mal, die sitzt da oben und wartet, gefuttert zu werden.
Hookah. This is a good hookah. Oops. Messing in the forest is strictly prohibited. I don't know if I'm getting this or not. I can't see.
And so we go to the last stop of the trip, singing and dancing in Manaka. The sect of Islam here is called Ismaili, and their expression of it is truly joyous. The men and women do not dance together here or anywhere for that matter. In fact, here we never even saw a woman. The men did all the work, cooking, cleaning, and of course, the entertaining. Again, as foreigners, we don't have to abide by the same rules, and so we got to participate. Our time in this amazing place was over now. We were left with the task of assimilating all the images, sounds, smells, interactions, and information that had been poured into us, each in our own way left to come to terms with this experience. For me, I was once again reminded of how the outside can seem so different, but inside, we all want the same things: to drink and eat, to laugh and love, to ponder and express, and in our own ways, try to make sense of it all.
Cuida. Calm, calm. Very cute.
Den Baggerfahrer auch gesehen, der die Straße da so ein bisschen so abgeschoppt hat. Ja. Der wusste nicht, dass da noch jemand kommt und der hat dann vor uns.
Telefon. Telefon. Ja, Mobile, Telefon. Hallo.
Shahara jetzt unter uns, ja?
Das sag mal.
Shahar. Ich habe Balas, ja? Diese große Tore. Gibt es verrichtete Eingang von dort? Hier.
Immer da zum Papa hin.
What does this mean?
Peruanische Bauweise. Peruanische Bauweise, aber der
The children are coming, the children are coming. Masumaki.
Huh?
Masumaki.
Episam.
Episam. Taumruk 10.
Yeah.
How do you say 10 in Arabic?
Yeah, I understand.
Huh?
عشان.
عشان. عشان. Okay. رياضية.
رياضية.
Wow. Ah, making bread. Ah, okay. Italian. Italian, no? Like a pizza. A pizza. Wow. And then this is the finished product.
Zweite Sache, das ist auch wegen Oberschwemmung. Also Oberschwemmung weil in unserer zweite Regenphase, starke Regenphase. Die alte Damm haben auch viele Stau gebaut. Das ist von ungefähr 50 Meter hoch.
Okay, now which one's this? This isn't the sheep.
Wenn du jetzt so machst, ja, jagen die Zipfel die Moskitos in der Ohren weg.
This is our stop to get water. And if I wanted this, I've got good got. Oh, I can't film got. Uh-oh. In the hot sun and the trash. Oh my god. This is a hard, hard trip.
Arif, ist das hier Shukra? Das ist ja ein schrecklicher Ort.
A soda? You want a soda? Why?
هذا العيون تظهر العيون
سيناهم في الجيران.
This little bag, very nice. Okay. شكرا.
Kleine Blätter.
Ah, the young
Sehr
leaves.
gute alte Baum. Man guckt das vom Blätter, man kann das entscheiden. Aber man braucht eine gewisse Erfahrung.
How he knows that cut is good or bad?
Young leaves.
And he notices the leaves, the small leaves, also the kind of tree.
Right.
And you need about 10 years experience in cut
To know
eating to know it.
Ah, okay.
So I've got a long time before to get it. How we have to get cut. We put the small leaves into the
side of our mouth.
Summer, not here in the middle, and go on and go on and go on, and always being chewing, no stopping. And that's
and don't swallow.
no, of course not. No.
Don't swallow. Okay. Ooh, okay.
Just only being there and
chewing.
Noch Zeit, noch 10 Minuten, 15 Minuten.
The Grand Market.
Aber sowieso nicht.
Wenn du weggehst, dann hättest du schon längst. Wir sind hier so oben, so. Come on. Renn raus.
أنا ما أبغى شو هم حاجة خلاص.
أنا الحسن.
Oh, ow.
Ey. Der muss alle beherrschen. Das ist gut und so. Die jetzt gleich aus, das ist so anstrengend. Oh, guck mal.
Number one.
Ich muss mein Knie beschlagen. Ich glaube, das ist gut.
Oh. Okay. Are you dancing? Is this your morning dance? A little. I have to say this is a little more fun than all the sudas.
This orange color